Greetings, my excellent friends, and welcome back to Tales from the Cripps. In this episode, I want to continue on telling stories from my time in Pakistan. Now, in the last episode, where we traveled from Islamabad up through the Indus Valley, we encountered some of the tallest mountains in the world, and I thought they gave us a pretty good idea about the kinds of scenery that we could expect to see throughout our trip in Pakistan. But it turns out that the next part of the trip, nothing could have prepared us for the grandiose nature, the pure scale and awe of the scenery that we were going to encounter. From the Hunza Valley, from Gulmit, our plan was to take a reasonably leisurely 2 days to get to a place called Skardu. But because of a massive storm that was rolling up from the flatlands into the mountains, in fact, it was dropping fist-sized hail in Islamabad, breaking people's windows and damaging their cars. It looked like it was going to hit the mountains right where we needed to ride. And it turns out that rain plus crumbly rock plus highways equals landslide, equals closed roads, equals we won't be able to get through if we don't beat this storm. And so instead of taking 2 days, we had to get from Gulmit all the way over to Skardu in 1 day. It was a really long ride. It was about 300 kilometers, but it was absolutely breathtaking. So we hustled up and we had a progressively warmer and warmer ride as we left Gulmit and we headed back to Gilgit. Now that's where we were planning to spend the night, but again, we had to get ahead of the storm. So from Gilgit, we descended down into the Indus River Valley and continued on our way along that. And at this point in Pakistan, the Indus River, it cuts through one of the most unbelievable gorges that I've ever gone through. I mean, this thing is so steep-walled, it's insane that they actually put a highway there in the first place. It would be like putting a road down into the Grand Canyon along the bottom of it and having to deal with all the rockfall and all the crumbling walls that would happen every single time there's a flash flood. And there were villages along the way. There were people living throughout this canyon alongside these unbelievable sheer walls and the rock slides and the closed roads. It was just a part of their daily life. During that ride through the gorge, we had another one of those travel experiences that I found really humbling and gave me a lot of perspective and things to think about for the rest of the day. We pulled up on the side of the road at this little overlook just to take a little break. And then out of nowhere, these kids showed up. I mean, really, I was like, where the hell did they come from? There's nothing around here. And all of a sudden, these kids are there. And then our guides told us, well, these are the kids of sort of the equivalent of the Pakistani gypsy. They go wherever there is work. They just follow kind of day labor around wherever there is available in Pakistan. And in this particular case, they were working in a mining encampment down along the banks of the Indus River. And they would spend their days panning for gold in the Indus River, for which these mining companies would give them a set amount of money per day. And this was a literal, I won't say a tent city, but a tent town. And you can tell that the people who lived there were just among the poorest of the poor. And yet that didn't stop these kids from extending some level of hospitality to us. In fact, within just a few minutes of chatting with them, they said, will you please come down and join our family for a meal or for a cup of tea? And it just floored me that people who had so little would be so willing and so instantly hospitable to offer what they had to share it with complete strangers who happen to be just passing through where these kids' entire lives take place. And we're just whipping through in just a couple of minutes that they would be willing to extend us the invitation for a cup of tea. I thought it was really amazing, and it made me think about how often in our lives here, at least for me here in the US or wherever you're living, if you're in Western society, where we get so focused on what's next and what am I doing and what are my goals, that it's so easy to discount what's going on with other people around you, or to notice when there are people around you who perhaps need something or who could benefit from a little bit of cultural cross communication. And that's something that I just love about travel, the ability to have your standard viewpoint shaken up a little bit and to be hit with that baseball bat of perspective, to be able to think about, what are my values? How do I want to interact with the world, and how do I want to interact with the people that I meet as I travel through it. Now, unfortunately, we really had to make tracks because we're trying to beat the storm. So we didn't take those kids up on their invitation for tea because we had hours and hours and hours of riding left to do. So we set off and we headed out through this gorge, which again was just monumentally beautiful. All of these wonderful villages with their terraces built up on the sides of absolutely improbable rock faces, just stunningly beautiful. And on top of all of this deep red and dusty brown canyon and cliff faces, there were, of course, the endless mountain peaks extending higher and higher and higher. And everywhere you looked, there were glaciers and snow-capped mountains all above 20,000 feet. As we came out of the end of this gorge, then the magnitude of the scenery really started to become apparent. So this part of Pakistan, it's getting very, very close to the area where K2 is. This is the second highest mountain in the world. And all of the mountains in the area are just uplifted to an unbelievable degree. And everywhere we looked, we saw towering pinnacles and pyramids of rock that were unnamed, unclimbed, and just formed the backdrop of people's lives who lived in the area. Okay, so we made it to our hotel in a place called Kachora, which was really just an overnight stopover point where the kids who were working at the hotel, I mean, they were like these 3 19-year-old boys who were just on their phones the whole time. Man, they couldn't give 2 shits about us. My buddy Farouk asked for a cup of chai, and they literally just went and got another pot that another guest had left over and just brought it to him. This lukewarm chai was so ridiculous. Anyway, we stayed the night there, and then the next day we headed off to a little village called Shigar. And by the time we arrived in Shigar, the storm had come to meet us. It was just raining down on us and we were getting soaked, but the very last few minutes of our motorcycle ride, and we arrived at our wonderful guest house, a place called the Amacha Guest House, where every room had kind of a different color, a different theme. And that's where we spent the next 2 days. The very next day, we did absolutely nothing. It was a planned rest day, and good thing it was, because it absolutely poured the entire day. We got a little bit itchy just sitting around, listening to the rain and drinking endless cups of tea. And so in the afternoon, we decided to go for a walk through town. We ended up going to the Shigar fort, which was beautiful. It was this old sort of Tibetan style fort that had been there for hundreds of years, where the kings and rulers of this valley, controlled their empire for as long as they could hold it from whatever invading army. Now you can just go on a tour through the fort and get a burger in the restaurant downstairs. But nevertheless, it was a pretty interesting place to spend a couple of hours. Fast forward to the next morning, and I woke up early and noticed there was some light coming in the window. The rain had stopped, the storm had moved over, and I could actually look out and see snow-capped peaks around us. So I flew out of bed into my slippers and I ran outside with my camera and my drone, and looking all around to see there was this level of fog sitting down low, but there were these windows, these patches of open sky in the fog. Now, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything with my camera, so I took the drone, I launched it up into the air, and I flew towards those open windows. And as I got out of the clouds and out of the mist, and the view opened up before me, the majesty of this part of the world unfolded before me. The Shigar River was flowing like this serpentine silver snake through the valley. And off in the distance, these unbelievably powerful and massive peaks. And the mountains there are just little tiny little babies. They're only about 16 or 17,000 feet tall, which is absolutely minuscule by Pakistan standards, but that didn't stop them from being coated with ice and glaciers and fresh snow from the night's storm. Sadly, that break in the storm didn't last very long. The clouds came back in, and before I could lose it, I decided to fly the drone back to me as the mist kind of swirled around it and the view was lost to sight. Now, that day, because we'd had a rest day already, we needed to move on our motorcycles to another small village about 3 or 4 hours riding away called Haplu. We, again, every day were confronted by the fact that we thought we had an understanding of how unbelievable the scenery it was going to be, and we had our expectations absolutely smashed by every single corner that we turned around, and we saw yet another 17 or 18,000 foot tall mountain. And I don't just mean a single peak, but I mean a wall of mountain rising up, a ridge rising up to 18,000 feet, covered with ice and snow and glaciers that absolutely dwarfed the landscape, made us feel like the teeniest, tiniest little specks of humans as we were riding our motorcycles through these unbelievable mountain roads. So we carried on along the road to Haplu, and as we did, the storm broke open, the sun came out, the scenery again just became so beautiful as the clouds dissipated and the sky got bluer and created this wonderful color contrast between the high mountains covered with snow and that deep, deep blue sky and the green, lush green valleys below us. So we were still following the Indus River at this point, and eventually we reached a junction where the Indus and the Shyak River came together. And at this point, there was a big halt to our forward progress because that storm that had come through had dropped tons of rockfall across the road where we needed to go. So there was a big gate down and we were absolutely just stopped. However, it turns out that the rule of the road in Pakistan is if you can do it, you can do it. If you're on a motorbike, you can pretty much get around anywhere. And I was amazed by how many points they let us go through the official checkpoint just because we were on motorcycles. And they would say, oh, you know, the workers are out there. They're still clearing the landslide that came down last night, but they probably have a footpath around the edge that you could follow. So why don't you just go for it? And we would just head down the road. All the trucks, all the cars were stopped at these checkpoints because they couldn't make it through. But anywhere there was a landslide, there had been enough people already going through, either from the tiny little villages or the actual road crews clearing things up, that we could just kind of sneak our way in between all of the boulders and mud and continue along the way. As we followed the Shyak River, I found myself falling into this state of almost dreamlike wonder because everywhere I looked, there were vibrant fruit trees, beautiful, lush terraces of crops growing, 20,000 foot tall snow-capped peaks, and beautiful blue skies above. And at times we would be riding down the road between poplar trees, these endless rows of poplar trees. I don't even know how to describe how this made me feel. It was the most idyllic thing that I may have ever encountered while moving, you know, sitting by a lake and watching a sunset while you're just very peacefully, placidly chilling. That's one thing. But to experience that level of serenity and tranquility and dreamlike awe, to be flying down a road with thousands of poplar trees whipping past you, with little kids in villages waving to you or giving you high fives and smelling the blooming apricot trees. It was absolutely amazing. It was like something out of a fantasy. So I was stopping all the time. I had my camera in my little tank bag on the motorcycle, and we had a follow car, which had our driver and our mechanic in it. And these guys were wonderful. I could not communicate with them at all. Their primary language was Pashto. They spoke a little bit of Urdu. I don't speak any of those languages, and they didn't really speak any English. They're just some people you kind of connect with, you know what I mean? And these guys were just total goofs, total hams. And anytime I would stop to take a picture, they would stop the truck behind me because I was always the last one in line. And they would get out and they'd be posing. They'd be like, take our picture, take our picture. You know, the three of us would pose together, or they would take my camera and shoot a photo of me underneath this amazing scenery. So we just had an absolute ball that entire day, just farting our way through the Pakistani countryside as we got closer and closer to the village of Khaplu. And as we got really, really near to that little village, I was surprised by how the scenery just continued to get more grand and the scale of it continued to grow. Now, the quality of this scenery was very similar to a place that I have traveled a lot, to New Zealand, these magnificent glacial valleys with wandering, meandering rivers and snow-capped peaks above. And there were a couple of places where I thought, you know, if you just dropped me down at this bend in the road and said, hey, where do you think you are in the world? I would have said, oh, New Zealand, no question about it. Until I realized, again, the scale of the place. New Zealand, it's really stunningly beautiful, but as a friend of mine says, they have big little mountains. So the tallest mountain in New Zealand is only 12,200 feet. In Pakistan, that's like a hill. We were riding our bikes through these river valleys at maybe 6,000 or 7,000 feet in elevation, and then I would look on my topographic map and realize the mountain across the way was at 20,000 or 21,000 feet tall. So it was really difficult to internalize the vastness of that scenery. This was such a wondrous day because we really didn't have to crack the whip on our riding. We could take it at a leisurely pace. And so every time we would round a bend and see something unbelievable, I'd launch the drone. And the perspective that you can get, seeing these mountains, not from eye level or not even from a few hundred feet up, but from being able to fly your drone thousands of feet up to get that aerial perspective of these valleys, I found was really the only way to truly grasp how grand and how majestic they really were. So for about the 50th time, I thanked my lucky stars that I decided to bring my drone at the last minute. But eventually, after all the lollygagging and photography and just general lounging and enjoying the scenery, we did arrive in the village of Haplu. And this is another place where you have this little beautiful green village on the banks of a river, the Shyak River, with towering mountains just erupting from the earth behind it. But this river in particular I found to be quite fascinating and quite beautiful because the riverbed was very broad, and in places the river itself was like a sheet of glass. It would reflect everything around it, the sky, the sun, the clouds, the unbelievable cliffs, the sheer cliffs rising out of the riverbanks on the far side. And this was just another layer stacked on top of my head like, oh, you thought you were in disbelief before about the amazing, amazing scenery here in Pakistan? Well, let me layer one more thing on top of it, that unbelievable gorge that you rode through. And let me plop another thing on top of it, those gigantic pinnacles of rock that you saw. And let's go ahead and plop another thing. It looks like New Zealand, but it's twice as big. And then let's pile some cliffs and a huge, perfectly flat, perfectly mirror-like river on top of it. And I just remember feeling so visually, I don't want to say overwhelmed or overstimulated, like my brain really was running out of room to process and digest what this landscape was showing me. It was just such a wow experience. And I remember so many times during that day, during the ride, that my friends and I would look at each other and we didn't have any words to communicate what we were experiencing. We just shake our heads or make this gesture as we were riding along on our bikes, and that's exactly like, that is the best way I can sum it up. Those couple of days riding from Gulmit through the Indus River Gorge and then along the Shyak River to Khaplu were just incredibly. The next day was even more amazing still, and that's where I ended up doing the bulk of my photography on this particular trip. But that's gonna have to wait for the next video, so stick around, stay tuned, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit notifications so that you do get those new videos when they drop. That's gonna do it for this video. Till next time, have fun and happy adventuring.